ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ So the fourth mantra, Sapnasthanaha antahprajñah saptangah ekonavimshati mukhah Pravivikta book Taijasaha Dvitiyah Padaha. So Atma, which obtains as the very dreamer and the dream world. Atma, which obtains in internal consciousness. One is a bahish prajña. So the same Atma obtains as a external consciousness. Definitely external, internal, all is eva, as though, naturally. Eva means you have to add a upadhi. That's the only thing. Inside, the space inside, space outside, is all eva. One space, say the space which is inside part, which is outside part, the space which is inside room, outside room, inside, outside, internal, external, all is due to upadhi. Upadhi being mithya, that is, this division also is mithya, Advaitam is mithya. But anyway, so this is how the consciousness which obtains, this is the second pada, the second quarter of consciousness which obtains as the very dreamer, the Vashti and the dream world. One consciousness pervades. Therefore, the entire dream world also is pervaded by consciousness alone, and therefore that is also an entity, conscious being. That's a samashti. And the Vyashti also is a conscious being, naturally, individual. One consciousness obtains as this. That's a Dvitiyah Pada. And then there are characteristics of this dream world. The characteristics of this Dvitiyah Pada, the second quarter of Atma, also has been shown here. And we saw, of course, first is a Sapnasthanaha. Sapnam Sthanam Yasya. So, which obtains in the dream consciousness as a Dvitiyah Pada. And it has not been defined. Sapnasthana, Sapnam Sthanam, etc. Anyway, much. Antahprajñah. That's what we saw also, but we can see again. Antahprajña, Bhashyakara explains that Indriya Apekshaya Antasthatvat, Manasaha Antasthatvat. And therefore, from the standpoints of the Apekshaya, from the standpoint of this Indriyas, the external sense organs alone, Manasaha Antasthatvat, mind is internal. Manasaha Antasthatvat is equal to Manaha Antasthaha. This is a Bhashya style. Two words which are connected. So he does this connection through the Srishti Vibhakti, and also the other word which will have a abstract noun and he puts Panchami. So Manasaha Antasthatvat is equal to Manaha Antastham. That's it. The mind which is internal. Compared to what? Indriya Apeksha. Compared to the external sense organs obtained in the waking state. So which is behind the sense organs also. So, indriya peksha manasah antasthatva, and tad vasana rupa prajña. Tad vasana rupa prajña. So, if the senses are what is, so since the mind which is internal and the sense organs are external, so even though the sense organs are not functioning in a dream, etc., the mind functions. And the prajña, the experiences in the dream, is in the form of what? Only vasana, only impressions of the mind. And that is called antah prajña. The mind alone functions, and they are all experiences between the dreamer and the dream world, etc., is all in the form of just impressions of the mind, in the form of thoughts. So any object that is there in dream is just mind. And so this is called antah prajña. Same Ātman is called antah prajña, internal consciousness. And then he explains as all these words, taijasaha, pravivikta bhuk, etc. And instead of explaining pravivikta bhuk, first he explains taijasaha, etc. And of course, and here pravivikta bhuk definitely, viviktam means different. Viviktam is different. Praviviktam, prakrishtam, means entirely different. Praviviktam bhungte iti pravivikta bhuk. This Atma, which is the bhokta, experience, which is experiencer of the objects. Praviviktam means praviviktam bhungte. So Atma, which is in the form of an experiencer, dreamer, of the objects which are entirely distinct. Praviviktam. Entirely distinct. Distinct from what? Distinct from the objects in the waking state. And how do they differ? Well, basically we discussed. So even though dreamer will not know at the time of dream, but and he doesn't recognize it, but objectively analyzing in the waking state, well, we know that the waker's objects are panchabhautika, made up of 5 elements, etc., whereas dreamer objects are just thoughts. And so that's the first difference. And then the second difference is, well, the objects which are in the waking state, which we call even sthula, etc., well, they are outside and inert in nature. Whereas the objects which are inside, in the dream, etc., they are definitely not outside. At the same time, they are of not inert in nature, because they are self-shining kind of a thing. They are in the form of thought. And every thought is not again, is revealed by consciousness. It is revealed by consciousness, but every thought which is there is all the time with the chidābhāsa. You cannot separate a chidābhāsa and a thought. And therefore, it is always, illumined by the chidābhāsa. And therefore, every thought basically is in the form of knowledge only. So it's it is self-shining kind of a thing. So therefore, this is a second difference, that the objects in the waking state, which are definitely external and inert, where the objects which are in the dream, they are internal and they are of the nature of prakasha. That's how the word tejasa is going to be explained. Tejo rupaha. Tejo rupaha means here they are of the nature of consciousness alone, because it's like a self-shining. So this is how it has been, and we know also that being external, they don't shine on their own. They have to be pervaded by the vritti vyapti. And then definitely the vritti is all the time with the chidābhāsa. Then chidābhāsa also pervades the external object, and that's how they are revealed. So that's how we know. Whereas here, any object in a dream is in the form of thought only, and therefore it is all the time associated with the consciousness also in form of chidābhāsa, and therefore, definitely there is no question of a vritti vyapti, etc. here. And so that is the difference. So here the praviviktam means we have to understand it in this manner. First is made up of 5 elements. Here it is made up of just in form of vasanas, impressions or thoughts, you can say. And the second is the objects in the waking are external and inert. They have to be revealed by vritti and the chidābhāsa, of course, together. So that's how mental objects in a dream are basically like a prakasha rupaha. That's how it says here. Further Bhashyakara explains that word taijasaha, and then he will explain word pravyukta. Vishaya shunyayam prajñayam kevala prakasha rupayam vishayitvena bhavati iti taijasaha. So since the objects are mental objects, I mean in the dream, they are of the nature of prakasha only, of the nature of chaitanyam. So there is no light. That is what Samjyoti Brahmana says. There is no light. How the whole dream world shines? Well, there is no other light. No sunlight, moonlight and all this lightning and fire and all this. Just whole world shines, while the mental world shines, is through consciousness alone. Consciousness pervades everything. In fact, consciousness alone is always in all forms. Therefore, definitely it's quite distinct from the external objects. So, Tejo Rupa Vishaya, dreamer experiences, well, definitely they are in the form of thoughts and they are all the time associated with chidābhāsa, and therefore definitely prakasha rupa vishaya. They are basically of the nature of consciousness alone. And so vishaya shunyayam prajñayam kevala prakasha rupayam vishayitvena bhavati. Kevala prakasha rupayam. So kevala prakasha rupayam definitely means the external objects have been here excluded. Kevala prakasha rupayam. There are no external objects at all. So, and kevala prakasha rupayam vishayitvena bhavati. The dreamer, which is the vishayi, subject. The dreamer is the experiencer of the objects which are of the nature of what? Kevala prakasha rupa, which are of the nature of just consciousness alone. Vishaya shunyayam prajñayam, which is definitely, here prajña means experiences. So all the experiences in the dream are without the relevant objects, external relevant objects. Therefore, Vishaya shunyayam prajñayam kevala prakasha rupayam, vishayitvena bhavati. So this dreamer is an experiencer of the objects which are of the nature of just light in the form of thoughts, and vishaya and which are definitely which are without vishaya shunyayam, without this relevant objects externally. Therefore, that's called taijasaha. So tejo rupa vishaya sambandhitvat taijasaha. Well, he is a sambandhi, he is an experiencer of the objects which are of the nature of just light in the form of thoughts, bright thoughts, you can say. And here bright etc. is in terms of consciousness alone. So they are sukshma vishayas basically. Whereas in the waking, definitely they are all sthula vishayas, and therefore pravivikta book. So therefore, what is experienced in a dream, all the objects are praviviktam, entirely distinct from what is there in waking state. Then further Bhashyakara explains now praviviktam book. We just took that word because we want to indicate, we want to show the difference between the objects obtained in the dream state and objects obtained in the waking state. So Bhashyakara explains this pravivikta book. Vishwasya savishayatvena prajñāyaha sthūlāyaha bhojyatvam. Iha punaha kevala vasana matra prajña bhojya iti praviviktaha bhogaha iti. Samanam anyad dvitiyah padaha taijasaha. So what it says is Vishwasya savishayatvena. So waker definitely goes through this experiences savishayatvena along with the relevant external objects. Vishwasya. So waker has Vishwasya, we can do it like this. Of the Vishwa, of the Vaker, instead, the Vaker has the experiences which are savishayattvena. Vaker has the experiences of the Vaker has experiences of the objects which are which has a relevant external objects. So here savishayattvena means along with the relevant external object. The Vaker has experiences along with the relevant external objects. And sthulayaha prajñayaha bhojyatvam. And definitely, so, and bhojya means here object of experience. Sthulayaha prajñayaha. So his experiences are called sthula experiences. So if you want a final distinction, well, sthula experiences are also vritti rupa actually. Vaker experiences are also ultimately in the form of thought. And so sthula book, that is there, and sukshma book, well, so basically both have a thoughts naturally. But the difference is the Vaker experiences are, even though they are in the form of thoughts, but which are associated with, along with means which are associated with the external gross objects. And dreamer's experiences are again in the form of thought, but no external objects. Therefore, so Vishwasya savishayattvena, they have a relevant external objects naturally. Savishayattvena prajña. Prajña means here experiences. So sthulayaha prajñayaha bhojyatvam. So he has all objects of experiences which are of the nature of sthula, external, relevant object, of course. So along with the relevant external objects, he has all experiences. And here, iha punaha. Iha punaha means here in the dream. Punaha means basically whereas. Punaha is used in the sense, punaha means again also. Punaha means to indicate a distinction, a difference from the previous thing. So punaha is equal to tu, but like that. So whereas here in this dream state, iha punaha kevala vasana matra prajña. So here the experiences are mere, kevala, mere vasana matra. Well, means impressions, means memory. So basically the experiences are mere memories only. Memories like experiences, well, without a relevant external object, unlike Vishwa. And that is called, that's called praviviktaha bhogaha. So this experience is quite distinct in a dream compared to the experiences of the waking state. This is how the distinction. He is going to show the distinction very clearly. Upanishad, of course, and Bhashyakara also will show that how when deep sleep state is a very distinct experience compared to the other two. Samana manyat. Other than whatever is left in this mantra, the words, Bhashyakara says, I am not going to explain. So what are the words left is ekona vimshati mukhaha. Well, Bhashyakara said samana manyat. Everything else is same like of the Jagrat avastha. So if the Vishwa has been explained as a ekona vimshati mukhaha, this also can be said in the same way, ekona vimshati mukhaha. The Vaker has 19 dvaras through which he experiences, right? That we saw. Pancha, what is that? Pancha pranaha, etc. And karmendriyani and buddhindriyani, dasha. And then ahankara, manaha, chittam, etc. All this. So, like that 19. So there are 19 dvaras for this Vaishvanara or Vishwa. The same thing you can consider here for dreamer. Dreamer also has a sense organs. Dreamer has organs of action because he walks and he sees a tiger and everything. He smells a flower. Any kind of dream is possible. So all that is, so ekona vimshati mukha is the same in both. And saptanga also will be the same. Saptanga means you now bring into samashti. So here you bring, and in dream also you can bring samashti. Whatever the dreamer experiences, the entire dream world is all on a samashti. So, well, definitely the entire dream world also, well, along with the consciousness, is called samashti, Ishvara, as though. Therefore, whatever we have explained as a saptanga for the prathama pada of Ātma can be taken same way. It can be taken as a because it's the same kind of an experience. So dream space and dream time and dream objects here also like this, our empirical time, space and everything. Same way. Therefore, Bhashyakara says, I am not going to explain the same because it is the same, like we explained in the Prathama Pada. So, samanam anyat. Anyat samanam. Everything else is similar. The other words are similar. And, and this is what? He concludes now. Dvitiya padaha taijasaha. So, taijasa, the Atma, is called dreamer. In this is Dvitiya pada, is the second quarter. So, our Taijasa, the dreamer, is the second pada of the Atma. So, this is how. Sapnasthanaha, antaprajñaha, saptangaha, ekonavimshati mukhaha, and Dvitiya padaha, Taijasaha, Dvitiya padaha. Now, we'll go to the fifth mantra, which shows the third pada of the Atma. Yatra suptaha, na kanchana kamam kamayate, न कंचन स्वप्नं पश्यति तत् सुषुप्तम् सुषुप्तस्थानः एकीभूतः प्रज्ञानघनः एव आनन्दमयः हि आनन्दभुक् चेतोमुखः प्राज्ञः तृतीयः पादः. So, we will first see this mantra. So, Upanishad, Upanishad has not explained as such this Jagarita Sthanam, right? Jagrita Sthan, the Vishwa is Jagrita Sthana. Upanishad says this much, not explained. What is this Jagrita Sthana? Bhashyakara explained that's a different thing. Jagrita Sthana. So, Jagritam Sthanam yasya saha Jagrita Sthana. Bhashyakara started that, and what is Jagritam, etc. also explained. So, but Upanishad doesn't explain Jagrita Sthana. Upanishad doesn't explain Swapnasthana, right? But here, Sushuptasthana, Upanishad itself explains. Sushuptasthana, what is Sushuptam? First it explains. And then Upanishad says, Sushuptasthana later. But before saying Sushuptasthana as a Tritiya Pada of the Atma, the word Sushuptam has been explained by Upanishad itself. That's the difference between these three. So, for Jagrita Sthana and the Sapna Sthana, word Jagaritam and Sapna, etc. have not been explained by Upanishad. Here, word in the Tritiya Pada, Sushupta Sthana, word Sushuptam has been explained. So, Yatra Suptaha na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati tat Sushuptam. And then Sushupta Sthana. So, Sushuptam has been explained first. Anyway. And how it has been explained? Yatra suptaha. Yatra suptaha. So, so deep sleep. Yatra means in which? Well, that the person, the Atma is sleeping as a deep sleeper. So, this is a state. Yatra means, in this state, this the Atma which is obtained as a sleeper, right? Yatra suptaha. And then he doesn't desire any objects. Na kanchana kamam kamayate, na kanchana swapnam pashyati. He doesn't experience any dream, etc. So, deep sleep state is the state in which, a sleeper does not experience an external object, etc. and does not desire an external object. And also, na kanchana swapnam pashyati. He does not experience a dream world. And Śaṅkarācārya, of course, wants to give two meanings to this word sleeper, suptaha, yatra suptaha. So, this sleeper, he wants to give two meanings. And the word sleeper can be interpreted in two ways. One is a conventional interpretation. So, definitely a sleeper means a sleeper. And once you say person is a sleeper, definitely he is not a waker. So, because the waker is one who is not a sleeping. So, he is not a sleeper. The sleeper is one who is not a waker. And when you use this word sleeper, he can be, he can be one of these two possible. He can be in one of the two possible stages. He can be, once you say sleeper, suptaha, So in a sleep itself, two states obtain. The sleeper who dreams, naturally, it occurs in a dream only. He occurs in a deep sleep only. So the sleeper which obtains a dream. So a dreaming sleeper, you can say. One Acharya has used this. So dreaming sleeper. Or, well, a sleeper without dream, naturally, means deep sleep state, right? So in a deep sleep state itself, in that sleep, a sleeper which can be obtained in two states. So whether it is he is a dreaming sleeper or sleeping sleeper, anyway. So word sleeper as such, suptaha, itself doesn't indicate in which state the person is. A sleeper can be a dreaming sleeper or a dreamless sleeper. Now if you want to define deep sleep state, definitely first you say a sleeper, of course, and because we are going to define deep sleep state. So he must be a sleeper, definitely. But by saying the sleeper, you have negated naturally a waking state. That is also okay. But you have to point out that this person is definitely is, you have to point out whether he is a dreaming sleeper or a dreamless sleeper. So Upanishad says, yatra kanchana kamam, yatra supta na kanchana kamam kamayate. Na kanchana kamam kamayate can be interpreted of two ways. Na kanchana kamam kamayate means he doesn't desire any objects. Could be in a dream. Could be negating dream state, because in dream also you may have a desire of various objects. So na kanchana kamam kamayate can negate the waking state as such. So na kanchana kamam kamayate negates a dream state. Na kanchana kamam kamayate means, well, he doesn't, he desires various objects. Na kanchana kamam kamayate. He does not desire any objects, desirable objects. That can be either a waking or a dream. So negating dream state, because yes, they have to define deep sleep state, means the other states have to be negated. But the possibilities, just word suptaha cannot do that job. Suptaha means a sleeper. That's true. But a dreamless sleeper or dreaming sleeper, that is also to be told. And therefore, na kanchana kamam kamayate definitely negates a dreaming sleeper. And also further, na swapnam, na kanchana swapnam pashyati. Well, he does not experience dream world. Means he is not a dreaming sleeper. Therefore, only possibility is he is a dreamless sleeper. That's how it can be taken. And waking state is negated suptaha. He is a sleeper. Therefore, waking state is negated. But it's little bit, let me admit, it is little bit vague in as much as different acharyas have interpreted differently. So, na kanchana kamam kayamte they say it is to negate even a waking state. Because as in a waking state, it is true that as the person is a waker, his consciousness is obtained externally and he contacts various objects, and as he sees the objects, a relevant desire can arise in a person's mind. Well, to negate that waking state in which such kind of desire arises, it says here, na kanchana kamam kamayate. So it's up to you what you should take. Na kanchana kamam kamayate negates waking state. Na kanchana swapnam pashyati negates a dream state. Therefore, yatra suptaha is a sleeper, but definitely he is a dreamless sleeper. We can take it that way either. It's a little bit vague, but we can take it this way. So, these two descriptions, Upanishad itself tells na kanchana kamam kamayati and na kanchana swapnam pashyati, clearly indicates. These two descriptions definitely exclude a dreaming sleeper, you can say, and of course, waking state is also waker also is excluded. Okay. Then Śaṅkarācārya ji wants to, that's the first thing. where sleeper has got this conventional meaning. Suptaha means a sleeper, just sleeper. And the rest, the description further negates a dream state, etc. So dreamer, etc. is negated. So clearly indicating a deep sleeper. Okay. Then Bhashyakara wants to give a second Vedanta. We'll be going into Bhashyam, but before that. So Bhashyakara wants to give a second interpretation also for the word Suptaha. So according to Vedanta, the sleep means is self-ignorance. So here the word Suptaha, of course, here in the first chapter, in the 16th Karika, the word Suptaha has been used not for our conventional sleeper. The word sleeper has been used for any jiva, even though he is in a waking state. So, anadi mayaya suptaha, right? Anadi mayaya suptaha, etc., etc. Yada jiva prabudhyate. When this jiva, when this individual wakes up, prabudhyate. From what? Anadi mayaya suptaha. Who is sleeping in this anadi maya, in this beginningless ignorance, etc. We have to understand this beginningless ignorance, So, ignorance cannot have a beginning, etc. And therefore, definitely the error which is born of also is a beginningless. Any error is beginningless. Yeah, it cannot have a beginning. And that's a good topic I want to discuss, but let me first finish, then I will discuss that thing also. So any adhyasa is a beginningless. So here jiva, the Atma alone is this jiva, either a waker, dreamer or anyone. So really it is Turiya only. Anyway, so word Suptaha, Bhashyakara takes it that way because Gaudapadacharya ji has used word Suptaha for person who is self-ignorant, not conventional meaning, sleeper. Then in order to negate whether he is a dreaming sleeper or a dreamless sleeper, that another two visheshanas are there, na sapnam, kanchana sapnam pashyati, etc. But the other interpretation Bhashyakara gives, other than the conventional meaning of word Suptaha, is that he is self-ignorant. Self-knowledge is, we call it as awakening. So self-ignorance means this sleep. And so word sleeper means what? Definitely includes all the three. One who is self-ignorant, the waker, dreamer and sleeper. All the three are included by the word sleeper, by the word suptaha, in another interpretation. Because all the three have got this sleep, and that is self-ignorance. So suptaha means ajnani purusha, you can say. So waker also is a suptaha, ajnani, and one dreamer also, and deep sleeper also. Now, if you want to talk about this deep sleep state or dreamless sleeper now, you will have to go further because suptaha indicates a waker, self-ignorant, dreamer and deep sleeper. Now we are actually we are describing the third pada of the Atma, where we are going to say that this deep sleeper is the third pada of the Atma, third quarter of the Atma. Now, so what Suptaha indicates any of the three, we have to exclude the other two, that he is not a waker and he is not a dreamer also. And for that, the other two visheshanas are there. Na kanchana kamam kamayate, two descriptions, means one description, na kanchana kamam kamayate, a description to negate waking sleeper, right? Here the sleeper now, self-ignorant. So, na kanchana kamam kamayate, this is a description to negate a waking sleeper, and na kanchana swapnam pashyati is to exclude a dreaming sleeper, and thereby, word suptaha, self-ignorant, of course, but here, by these other two descriptions, we are indicating a deep sleeper. Of course, self-ignorant, but a deep sleeper. So this is how Bhashyakara takes word suptaha as a conventional meaning, just sleeper. And sleeper means a dreamer, the dreaming sleeper or a dreamless sleeper. To exclude that, na kanchana kamam kamayate na sapnam pashyati, you can take or else supta is a different meaning based on the karika itself. Anadi maya supta. Supta means a self-ignorant. In that case, all the three will come. Then how to indicate a deep sleeper? Well, na kanchana kam kamete negates a waking sleeper. Here the sleeper, self-ignorant. And na kanchana supnam pashyati excludes a dreaming sleeper. So that has been negated. Now let's go to Bhashya. Darshana adarshana vrityoho tattva aprabodasya lakshanasya swapasya tulyatvat sushupti grahanartham yatra suptaha ityadi visheshanam. Darshana adarshana. Here also again many interpretations from Anand Giri and from Sachidananda Saraswati and etc. etc. And Pujya Swamiji has gone with the Anand Giri, our other Swamiji has gone with the our Sachidananda Saraswati, etc. But anyway, we'll see that. And so, Darshana Adarshana Vritti, it's a joy to study. Ultimately, finally, the principle will never be compromised. But interpretation differs, and yet they arrive at the same conclusion. So, Darshana Adarshana Vritti only has been commented differently by Anand Giri, and by Darshana Adarshana Vritti belongs to Bhashya. That's how Swamiji, how Bhashyakara explained Darshana Adarshana Vritti. That's an explanation of the mantra, and Bhashyakara uses this Darshana Adarshana Vritti, etc. So anyway, first we'll go with the Acharya who is our who has gone with this Sachidananda Saraswati. That Swamiji feels that the explanation is very simpler and easier anyway. So, according to that interpretation, Darshana Vritti means a dream state. Darshana Vritti means dream state, because there is a Darshana. Darshana means a sight, but that's a Upalakshana always. Upalakshana means it is an indicator. If sight means you have to include other sensory experiences, naturally. So that's called Upalakshana. They mention one, you can take of the same group, you can pull all of them. You can include all of them. So anyway, Darshana Vritti means a dream state. The Tikakara, the Sachidananda Saraswati from Holy Narsipur, very beautiful commentary. There is no, except one or two places, but that's a little wider difference between Anand Giri and Bhashyakara and Sachidananda. So Sachidananda Saraswati goes a little differently, where I will let you know. It will come. So Darshana Vritti is a dream state, because dream state is a state in which person has got the sight, Darshana. So Darshana, see here, and it is in a Bhashyam it's a samasa. Darshana adarshana vrittyoho is one word. So Darshana vrittihi one, adarshana vrittihi second. Darshana vrittischa, adarshana vrittischa, darshana means darshana adarshana vritti. That's a Dvandva. Darshana vrittihi cha adarshana vrittihi cha is equal to darshana adarshana vritti, means darshana adarshana vritti, and tayoho darshana adarshana vrittyoho saptami dvivachanam. In the dream state, darshana vritti, and in the adarshana vritti, in the deep sleep state. So that's how Sachidananda Saraswati explains. So he uses word darshana vritti for sapnavastha, adarshana vritti for sushupti avastha. And we know in sushupti avastha there is no darshanam. So adarshana rupa vrittihi yasyaha sa adarshana vrittihi. Darshana rupa vrittihi yasyaha sa darshana vrittihi. So this is how it is. And then you combine, make it dvandva, and then write tayoho to indicate a dvivachanam of the seventh case. So darshana vrityoho means in dream and in deep sleep state, tattva aprabodha lakshanasya svapasya. Bhashya. So the conventional sleep, svapasya here means, see this, before I go, I would like to tell you one thing. The root swap, from there swapnaha, suptaha, all this has been made. All these words, the root meaning of this word root swap has two meaning. Swap means to dream, swap means to sleep, both. And therefore, depending upon the context, we will have to define. Anyway, so tattva aprabodhasya lakshanasya swapasya. So we are taking here, he is taking as a, Satchidananda Saraswati takes as a conventional sleep. So first we take sleep as a conventional sleep. What's the definition of conventional sleep? Tattva aprabodha lakshanam. So here word tattva does not mean Atma, but tattva means that I am a waker, that kind of a, that's a fact. Well, that knowledge, tattva aprabodha. Tattva means I am a waker. That is prabodha means a jnanam. Aprabodha means not knowing. I am a waker that I don't know. So, and so tattva aprabodha lakshanasya means jagrat purushasya aprabodha. I do not know that I am a waker, comfortably lying in a room, etc. And which is called sleep. Swapasya tulyatvat. So tattva aprabodha lakshanasya swapasya tulyatvat. Darshana adarshana vrityoho means in a dream state as well as in a deep sleep state, there is something which is tulyam, which is common, which is equal. What is that? Tattva aprabodha lakshanasya swapasya tulyatvat. So, basically in both the state, either you are in a dream, either you are in a deep sleep state, the ignorance of the surrounding world, this waking world, is common. Either you are dreaming, either you are in a deep sleep state. So, in dream state and in deep sleep state, conventional sleep is common. Swapasya. So, tattva prabodha lakshanasya swapasya. So the person who is in a deep sleep state, who is sleeping, for him, well, this darshana adarshana vrityoho, well, in both these states, in a waking state and in a dream state, this is common. So tattva aprabodha lakshanasya tulyatvat. So tattva aprabodha lakshanam tulyam. Right? I told you. Shashti and tvat. You have to remove shashti, you have to remove tvat. So tattva aprabodha lakshanam tulyam. Something which is common. A characteristic which is common. And what is that? Tattva aprabodha. Tattva means I am a waker. That is aprabodha. That is not known. So when you are in a dream state or you are in a deep sleep state, the ignorance of the surrounding world is common. That's what it means. That's how darshana vrityoho in both these states, either in a dream state or in a deep sleep state. This is common. And further it says tulyatvat. Then further it says sushupti grahanartham yatra suptaha ityadi visheshanam. Since sleep is because sleep is common in both, in a dream state and in a deep sleep state, both are actually sleeping only. So therefore sushupti grahanartham means to differentiate a conventional sleeper from the dreamer. Naturally we have to have another thing now, because tattva aprabodha is common in both. I am a waker, etc. is not known to him, not known to the person. That is tulyam. Then how will you distinguish how will you distinguish a dreamer and a deep sleeper? Therefore, sushupti grahanartham, in order to understand the conventional sleep or the sleeper, well, Means in order to differentiate the deep sleep from the dream, well, what is required? Yatra suktaha ityadi visheshanam. Yatra suktaha ityadi, beginning from yatra suktaha, etc. Well, Upanishad says, na kanchana kamam kamayate, na kanchana svapnam pashyati. Therefore, well, definitely, this indicates that, well, here the dream state or the dreamer is excluded, right? Because in both of them have a ignorance. The dreamer and the deep sleeper have a ignorance of the surrounding, the waking world. And so to differentiate between a dreamer and the deep sleeper, we should have something. And that is where this is applicable. A Upanishad statement. Yatra suptaha na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati, etc. will be helpful to exclude the dreamer, to indicate, to understand sushupti. Sushupti grahanartham. In order to understand the sushupti properly, well, that this is a sentence of the Upanishad. So that is being said here. This is Satchidananda Saraswati, okay? Now the same darshana vrityoho, etc. of that statement of the Bhashyam has been explained by Anand Giri. Little differently, not much. Little different. And there you can understand darshana vritti and adarshana vritti. That's a difference actually. So darshana adarshana vrityoho swapasya tulyatvat. Darshana vritti means jagrata avastha. Anand Giri says darshana vritti means jagrata avastha. Because it says here, so darshanasya sthula vishayasya, look at that. Darshanasya sthula vishayasya vrittihi atra asti iti jagaritam darshana vrittihi. Darshana vritti means this is jagritam, where sthula vishayasya vrittihi. So there are vrittis, thoughts pertaining to the sthula prapancha, sthula vishaya, external objects. So that is have been explained like this. So darshana vritti means jagrita avastha. And because and I again tell you, darshana means a sight as such, but it becomes a upalakshana. Well, for all experiences of sthula vishaya, you have to include it. Through the senses, you contact various objects of the world. One of that is darshanam, will give you sight naturally, but then you should include others also. So definitely, all experience of sthula vishaya is called darshana vritti, waking state. Similarly, adarshana vritti. Adarshana is basically anyarthe. Is adarshanam. Actually is a prefix applied. Then this prefix is nai. Na. Pujaswami used to call nudge. So nai. And that nakara goes away, then nya also is a it letter, etc. goes away, all is left. And that I is applied. And it has a 6 meaning. One, first you know very well, abhava. Right? First is abhava. Very word bhava itself indicates that. Bhava means an existent. Bhavati iti bhava. So, bhava means an existent. Abhava, non-existent. So, this akara or a nai as a prefix applied to various words in various senses. One is a abhava. Second is a alpartha. Alpartha. And we say also like that. There is no salt in this dal. Salt is there, but it is less. Still we say there is no salt. So, that's how it is. So, one is abhava, other is alpartha. Third is a virodha, to indicate opposite. Ajnanam. Ajnanam, as per the contribution from Hole Narsipur, Satchidananda Saraswati, Ajnanam means a non-existence of ignorance means what? Well, basically is the non-existence of knowledge. Non-existent, abhava. He takes it ajnanam, our mula ajnanam, right? Tula, we are not talking about tula ajnanam. Mula ajnanam, ignorance of the self. That ajnanam, he takes it as a abhava. A stands for abhava. Abhava, no, I mean it is not there. Jnanam is not there. We means Bhashakara and Anandgiri and other things all take it as a virodhi, jnana virodhi. As the jnanam comes, ajnanam goes away. Not it is an absent, because ajnanam becomes a cause for everything. Then non-existent cannot become the cause of this existent thing. Therefore, it has yat kinchit bhavam. Therefore, Tattva says ajnanam, while describing karana sharira or ajnanam, it says yat kinchit bhavam, means seemingly existent. Seemingly existent is called yat kinchit bhavam. Seemingly existent. Seemingly existent thing give rise to seemingly existent karyam. Anyway, so that's the difference between we and whole invisible. So the third is a virodhi. First I told you abhava. Second I told you alparthe. Third is a virodharthe. Fourth is anyarthe. So Puja Swamiji takes is anyarthe. Adarshana vritti. Darshana vritti means a waking state. Adarshana vritti means anyarthe. Akara. So sthula vishaya darshanat anyat darshanam. Adarshana. Because in the deep, while describing a second pada, the dream state, we have said pravivikta bhuk. So definitely the dream state has objects which are quite distinct from the objects of the waking state. And therefore darshana vritti, if you take it as a waking state, then adarshana vritti, here you want to take it as a suppose dream state, then in that case we should say what? That anyarthe. Well, so means sthula vishaya darshanat anyat darshanam. So definitely the vishayas here in the svapna etc. is are quite distinct from the sthula vishaya. So anyarthe here akara nai, and therefore adarshana vritti means svapnaha. So and darshana adarshana vrittyoho etc. Tattva aprabodha lakshanasya swapasya tulyatvat, means waking and dream state is equal to sleep, in the sense that there is no tattva prabodha, there is no knowledge of tattva atma etc., because everybody is ultimately sleeping. Waker is also sleeping, dreamer is also sleeping, and deep sleeper of course is also, he is sleeping in that ignorance etc. So even you are dreaming, you are sleeping etc. And this meaning I find very, very convenient, because the Shruti is going to, and even Karikakara is going to use, is going to distinguish the deep sleep and on one side, and on the other side the waking and dream will be put together. And words which are very familiar have been used as a agrahanam, anyatha agrahanam. So agrahanam means not knowing, not understanding, not knowing rather. And anyatha agrahanam, understood differently. That's adhyasa etc. Will come that. So in order to distinguish the deep sleep state, well, definitely here, I mean, this Anandgiri takes it this way. So darshana adarshana vrittyoho. So whether I mean in a waking state, in a deep in a dream state, tattva aprabodha lakshanasya swapasya tulyatvat. So this swapa of this person who is self-ignorant, and both has what? Tattva aprabodha lakshanam, whose characteristic is aprabodha, not knowing, ignorant of what? Tattva, of the Atma, in both the states, either a waking and in a dream. So even when you are dreaming, definitely you can call still sleeper in as much as you don't know yourself. Tayoho svapasya tulyatvat. Well, definitely that's common in both self-ignorance, in both the states, waking or dream. So in order to distinguish the deep sleep state, well, sushupti says, the sushupti grahanartham yatra suptah ityadi visheshanam. So in order to distinguish from the waking and dream state from the sushupti, where definitely tattva aprabodha lakshanam is there. So, sushupti grahanartham yatra suptah ityadi visheshanam. He points out that yatra suptah na kanchana kamam kamayate, na kanchana sapnam pashyati. Definitely, even though all the three, deep sleeper of course is ignorant of the self, but then everything is common. Then how will you distinguish this conventional sleeper, sushuptam, deep sleeper? How will you distinguish from the other two, waking and dream? Well, Upanishad uses yatra suptah na kanchana kamam kamayate. Na kanchana kamam kamayate knocks out the waker. Na kanchana sapnam pashyati knocks out, excludes the dreamer. This is how this has been, Anandgiri has explained. Where Sachidanand Saraswati has taken to explain what supta etc. and the whole sentence yatra supta na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana sapnam pashyati, to explain that he has taken darshana vritti as a dreamer and adarshana vritti as a deep sleeper. And then in order to distinguish between the two, because tattva aprabodha is common in both, right, naturally, but and tattva means there it is taken as I am a waker etc. is not known, aprabodha. Tattva means here I am a waker, that is not known. And definitely because both are ignorant of the surrounding, either a dreamer or a deep sleeper. Both are, and therefore how will the tulyatva, then how will you distinguish? Because ultimately between a dreamer and a deep sleeper, how will you distinguish? Yatra suptaha na kanchana kamam kamayate na sapnam pashyati, exclude that dreamer. That's how sushupta. That's a Sachidananda Saraswati. Anandgiri says no. Darshan vritti means jagrat, waking state or waker. And the adarshana vritti, definitely dreamer. Even both have what? Tattva aprabodha lakshanasya svapasya tulyatvat. They also do not know. They are self-ignorant. Deep sleeper, definitely self-ignorant. Then how will you distinguish between deep sleeper and other two? Because we are defining deep sleeper right now. Well, then definitely sushupti grahanartham. In order to understand sushupti properly, yatra suptaha na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana sapnam pashyati. Na kanchana kamam kamayate excludes the waker. Na kanchana sapnam pashyati excludes the dreamer. So this is how the thing is. Okay. Several, I hope, in case if you don't follow, you can ask the question. But before you ask me question, definitely you go through once again if you want to listen to. And it's a brilliant thing. Pujya Swami has taken it differently, other Acharya has taken it differently. I thought both I should share you with you. So I took Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.